Hello, hello. You're watching Trending with the Tennessee Tribune. I'm Ashley Northington, the agency director and founder at DENOR Brands and Public Relations. And we're here on behalf of the Tennessee Tribune with the candidate who's running for sheriff. We're here to learn about each of the candidates so that you're informed when you go vote, so that we can dive in and talk about the issues that matter to you most. So let's jump right in. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell people why you're running for this office.
Yeah, I'm Daron Hall. I was born and raised here in Nashville. I've been the sheriff I'm running for. I've been the sheriff for 16 years, I think. And really, this is the line of work I've been in all my life. And I've worked for the last 3 sheriffs. And, it's just who I am. It's what I enjoy doing. And we've been working really hard. And there's a lot going on in the criminal justice field. So I hope and think that the people want somebody in there who is aware of what's going on and is trying to move in certain directions. And we worked really hard to try to make sure that people know that.
Yeah. And so you're the current sheriff. What has been some of the things that you're really proud of that have happened since you took office?
Yeah, I'm the only guy you're going to hear who's running for office to do away with the need for it. I believe that what we should be doing in the sheriff's office is trying to find a way to reduce the likelihood anyone ever comes back in contact with the criminal justice system. This afternoon, I've been sitting for the last hour and a half trying to work on programs that help people get their license restored. I took office 16 years ago, and we have 4,000 beds of jail for people to be housed in, and we have 1,800 of those vacant today. And the goal is to eliminate the other ones. That may not happen in my lifetime. But it's our goal. It's who we are. And in Nashville, the sheriff doesn't arrest people. Doesn't have the authority to arrest people, but it does have the authority to arrest the problem. The problem is not the person. Oftentimes, it's tied into things like addictions and mental health, and we are well aware of that. We see it every day. As I tell people all the time, there aren't very many bad people in the world. They're just people who make bad decisions, and sometimes those decisions are made because you're addicted or suffering from illness. So we work really hard at trying to get our hands around that problem and reduce the need for jail and reduce the need for the criminal justice system as a whole.
Right. I love that you say that we don't arrest people, we can't arrest people, but we can't arrest the problem. Can you give me a couple of examples of how you're doing just that, arresting the problem?
Yeah, right down the street here right now, we're building a jail facility. The good news is we had 1,300 beds downtown. This is only going to be 700 and replacing it, so half the beds that we used to have, because we don't want to have more jail beds. But we didn't just build a jail. Right now, in the next 16 months, it will open up. We're going to have a 64-bed behavioral care center for the mentally ill. And so when a person is brought to jail in the future who is suffering from mental illness, they'll go directly into the behavioral care center, never be photographed, fingerprinted, booked, taken to court, convicted, and so forth. And so the why they're going to jail and what we can do about arresting the problem is the person isn't at fault. Oftentimes they are addicted or they're suffering from an illness, and we need to treat the illness. You don't need to incarcerate someone because they oftentimes don't even know what day it is. So we're working really hard to try to identify those people and identify what we can do to help them when they're coming in, and the mental illness and addictions are the 2 biggest challenges for us.
So talk to me a little bit about how you go about working with other community partners to because that sounds like restorative justice.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how you work with other partners to make sure that type of thing happens.
Yeah, just left, right now I just left Judge Bell, who is helping us on the driver's license piece. Obviously that's the judicial side. The district attorney here in town is a really good friend of mine who we're trying really hard to say, wait a minute, do you really need to prosecute people who are suffering from illness and addictions? Can't we do something differently? And you need to be able to work with what we call partners. Sometimes that's the criminal justice system. I spent my weekend doing all sorts of things. We were doing an active shooter program in churches here in town. We offer a training. It's a sad part of reality. But we have some instructors who are very good at helping people in churches, of all things. I never thought I would say that. Help prepare for the inevitable, unfortunate situation if you were to run into it. And so we do a lot of things all over the community and trying to help people with addictions and mental health, and we're also trying to be a face in the community where if there's a problem out there we can help with, we want to be that person.
Right. So what do you think has sort of fueled your passion to be the sheriff? You've been a sheriff for 16 years and you want to do it for 4 more years. What keeps you going? What got you started and what keeps you going?
I went to Antioch High School here.
Me too.
Did you really?
Yes, go Bears.
Go Bears. There you go. So, and it was a long time ago. But when I was in school, I didn't really love school. But I loved trying to figure out why things happen. And so I've always believed that if we understand why people do what they do, we can help them not do it again.
Yep.
And so I don't care about who did it. I don't worry about. I don't watch movies and books where who done it. You know, there's a lot of that goes on. I want to know why. And if we can do something about why people do what they do, we can maybe help change the community. That's what I think. And so in the agency I'm in, it's the best opportunity I can think of because 40,000 people a year are brought to jail. 90% of them are addicted to something. 40% of them are mentally ill. So if we know why that's happening, let's do something about those issues. And so it's a great place to be able to do that. My passion is to try to feel like there's redemption in people and there's an opportunity for people to change their life. And the only difference between me and the people who are incarcerated is a whole lot of luck and timing. I mean, I'm no better than anybody. I remember that every day I get up. And I was fortunate enough to have certain things that were more lucky than my own doing, and I'm no better than those people. So I want to make sure we do something to help them stay out of the system.
Wow. So, what do you think your legacy will be as a sheriff? Even if you're, moving forward 4 years, what do you think that your legacy as sheriff will be?
You know what? I don't know. I hope someone. I have a 16-year-old son, and when he was in the first grade years ago now, I've been the sheriff for several years, and people call the house at all hours of the day, and they reference you as sheriff and sheriff and sheriff. And so, but at one point in the first grade, I was walking through the house, and he said, "Dad, what do you do?" And I never thought about it, but I took him in a part of the house, and I sat him down, and I said, "What I want you to understand is I run timeout. And timeout in our house is a place where you go sit and you may have learned, or we want you to learn, maybe what you could have done differently or better." And I said, "But what I want you to understand is I don't love you any different when you're in timeout. I don't feel different about you as a person, and I don't want you to feel different about people who make bad decisions. And if they're in timeout with me in my job, they aren't bad people. They've made bad decisions in some cases, and we need to love them and feel the same about them as we do when they're up and running around the house or running around the neighborhood." And so I want people to believe when it's over for me that I was trying to do something about it. I wasn't trying to judge people. I wasn't, like I said before, I'm not trying to grow what we do. I'm the only person that's going to come in here and say, "I want to get rid of what we do." It won't happen in my lifetime, but it's on its way. We're moving the ball, and not me, but the community is. There's a lot of things happening that we want to be a part of, and hopefully one day you won't have to interview someone for this job. You can spend the money doing something else.
Yeah. So tell me, what's the vision for the sheriff's office over the next, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Where are you moving forward aside from the things that you've mentioned before?
Yeah. So one of the things that people don't know is if you go around the world, I've traveled around the world in corrections, which is kind of what we do, and other countries laugh at us because we over-incarcerate people. And so one of the things that I want to be around long enough to see our country do it the way at least other modern countries do it. And what that means is people who are ill go to the hospital. People who are mentally ill may go for mental health treatment or care. People who are addicted oftentimes go to help their addiction. They don't come to this one place called jail. We run the largest mental health hospital in the state. We run the largest addictions treatment center licensed in the state of Tennessee. That shouldn't be occurring in jail. I get people calling me at my office and my house throughout the month. And they'll start off and they'll say, "I need my granddaughter arrested." "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, she stole our car and she stole some pills out of our cabinet and we've given her money and she's taken." And what they're saying is they want her to live. They're afraid she's going to die in the streets, and she will. And the only place we as a society can get that fixed is to arrest her. That's wrong. We should want to fix her addiction without having to be criminalized for it. Mental illness, you would never call the police if you saw a man having a heart attack.
Right.
But you'd call the police oftentimes if you see someone screaming and yelling at things that aren't really in the air.
Gosh, yeah.
And so we call the police are involved, they then come to jail, you house them, you convict them, you send them to court, you put them on probation, you build these fines and these fees. It's really compounding the problem. Most countries that are modern better than us don't incarcerate that population. So we're laughed at for over-incarceration, which is true, but we really put them in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Nashville in 1964. I was born.
Mm-hmm.
In the 60s, this country decided to deinstitutionalize mental health hospitals. They didn't want people to be stigmatized by being in a mental health hospital. So now what we do is we stigmatize them by calling them a criminal and putting them in a jail setting for being ill. So I hope to be around long enough to see the country, which I think it is, moving in a way where we put people what would best help the individual instead of just what makes the society feel good right now, which is to take the problem away.
Right.
And so we need to get down to the core issue of what's really at the problem, and I hope to be around to see some of that happen.
Well, it sounds like that there needs to be a shift in people's perceptions, a shift in people's attitudes, right? And so as a communicator, that's what I work towards doing.
Yeah.
So how do you think the sheriff's office could play a role in helping shape people's perception about how to deal with this sort of population?
You know, it's a great question, and I'll be honest with you. About 70% of my time in my job right now is talking about and dealing with the mental health population. If you had told me that 30 years ago when I was in graduate school to come and do this, I would have laughed at you. We never talked about it. So I'm doing as much as I possibly can to try to educate and inform the community, because the truth is, it is my job to do that. The jail walls of a city like this are hidden. I mean, it hides the problem from people if you allow it to. We need to tell people what it's costing. Not only the dollars, but the humane cost. I mean, we're putting people in settings that they don't belong in, who quite frankly don't even understand what day it is. They're not of sound mind. And jails and courts and police and sheriffs, that's not where they belong. So my job is to educate the community as best we can. And I tell people all over the community right now, if you're honest, this is the question you should ask yourself. If you saw a man grab his heart and fall in the parking lot, are you going to dial 911? Yes. Are you going to ask them to send you an ambulance? Yes. If you see someone outside who's singing to Elvis flying over and there's elephants, do you see them all, and they're screaming and yelling, start taking off their clothes, I bet you call the police. And if we're honest, me too, that's what I would say that's not who needs to come. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It is illness. It may be like cancer. It may be like a heart attack, but it's not criminal. And what happens is the police are involved. This isn't unique to Nashville.
Right.
And the police do what the public thinks we want to do, which is take it away.
Right.
And we then put it in a jail, and then we put it in a courtroom, then we put it in a criminal history system that is, and then what happens? The person can't find a job, they owe fines, they don't know what court dates are, they don't understand what probation is, they have trouble understanding what day it is. And so then we compound that by charging them again and again and again. And so society's got to understand, and my job is to communicate that to the public, I think, and say, look, they don't belong here. We're building a facility better than jail for them. That's one step. The other thing is society's got to move too. You've got to understand, just because it's abnormal doesn't mean it's criminal. And until we start calling an ambulance instead of a police car, we're going to find the same problem.
So that's the solution. When we see things that aren't right, we don't always have to call the police.
Right.
Maybe we need to call an
the
ambulance.
ambulance, he needs help. He
Emergency
needs,
responders.
Right.
Yeah.
We criminalize an illness. That's just wrong.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, are there any signs that people should be looking for to know the difference between like somebody who's having some sort of mental health issue and then maybe somebody who is like really up to no good, so to speak?
You know, forensic. We had an event last Monday at Vanderbilt, a whole day of mental health, and a forensic psychiatrist was talking about the distinction, and it's very deep, very hard to understand. And to be honest, the public don't have very many options today. We had out here at the Mental Health Co-op here this week, there was a groundbreaking for a 12-bed emergency room for people who are psychotic, who are acting out, and so that we didn't have that before. And that's really it. Mental Health Co-op is opening that. We need our community to have resources. It's kind of like community centers. When kids have nowhere to go, they get in trouble oftentimes. Right. So we started over the years building community centers. Well, when people who are mentally ill have nowhere to go, they're going to be taken to places we don't want them to go.
Right.
So it's time to start putting resources in our community that will deal with this population, and I think it's getting there.
Right.
So there's two things: identifying that as a strange problem, conditioning ourselves to go, you know what, that person needs help. I'm guilty, but most of us are. We need to be able to say that person needs help instead of let's get them out of here.
Right. Right.
And the police do a good job of getting them out of here, but that's not what we want.
Right.
So if we can get that and alternative sites versus the criminal justice system in the next 5 to 10 years, I hope we'll find a better way of being.
Right. So now I'm going to ask you the really hard question, and that is, why should the voters reelect you?
Wow. You know what? I've been doing this for 16 years, and I even struggle sometimes with this type of thing because I work hard, I think, in my job. I do the job the way I think and the public want it done. But if it's not, I'm not the guy. I'm not going to change much about the way I'm doing it because that's not who I am. I don't have a, I'm not politicizing it, and if you elect me, I'll do X, Y, and Z. I've been doing the job a long time. I think the longest of anyone ever. I was the youngest person ever elected to the job. You know, we run the most diverse organization in the entire government. With 1,000 employees, it is the most diverse organization there is in a government. And I have the lowest turnover rate in what we do in the country. And so the people who matter most to me are the people who do the really good work there every day. It's terribly difficult work. And I hope that if you are listening and are interested in who to vote for, ask the people who work there. How are they treated? How do they look? How do we feel? Because they know. I hope that it's a place that we're trying to do really good things for people who are in bad situations. And if I'm not the person, then I would move on and do something else. But I hope the voters appreciate the work we've done. We have a resume built on 16 years, and I appreciate the election process. But I'm not going to change much. I'm not a guy who's politicizing this to get elected. I hope this is what the people want, and I hope I'd be the person they want me to be.
Love it. I love it. Thank you so much for your candor, and thank you for all of the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
So that's all we have for today. You're watching Trending with Tennessee Tribune. Thank you.